Today I'm going to talk about potency and dosing. It's a very vital part of homeopathy, and you sort of have to unlearn conventional medicine to understand homeopathy because it works in a very different way. So potency. When we talk about potency, we're talking about the number on the bottle. So if it's aconite and it's got a 30C, 30C is the potency is what we're talking about. So when we're talking about like 3Cs, 6Cs, 9Cs, 12Cs, they are on the lower end, so they are more, they sort of work more on the physical plane. And you'd probably want to dose, 2-3 times a day. With them, for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even longer, you're just also always monitoring how you're responding to them. And that is your feedback and your gauge to how often, how often you give it, remedies working, etc., etc. Then we go from the lower potencies up to sort of 30C, which is a great potency to have at home. And most kits have 30Cs, mostly are made out of 30Cs. And they are great, acute potency medicines at 30C. And then you would, we'll talk about dosing in a second. So then you go on to 200s. Also, you could have a few of those at home. They're quite good. A little bit stronger. You would want to start thinking of more sort of a mental, emotional picture to the 200s as well as the physicals. So you start drawing on that sort of information as well. When you go up to like 1M, 10Ms, then it's much more on the mental, emotional picture, and you're probably, with certain remedies, you may possibly be clearing ancestral stuff too. Anything's possible, right? So yeah, then we mostly use Cs, which also have Ks and Xs, and we have LMs, but that's beyond the scope today for me to talk about them. So then we want to think about dosing, like how do we dose? I have vaguely mentioned it in the potency section. So lower end of the scale, 3, 6, 9 Cs, you'll want to dose 2, 3, 4 times a day, and they're very much for physical ailments, potencies. 3200, depending on, it's all about matching the acute that you're dealing with. What are you presented with? So, and a good example would be a fever. So a low-grade fever, you'd probably want to dose 1 or 2 times a day, and then it's just a case of seeing how they respond. And I will do another video on dose response, but we're just talking about potency dosing today. So low-grade fever, just 1 or 2 times a day, and then see how they're responding. So you would drop it down if they respond really well, or maybe just continue another day, that sort of thing. So then if you wanted, so I had a fever that was, boom, really quite intense, so you're talking about an 8 out of 10, then you'd probably want to dose more often. So you'd be looking at 4 or 5 times a day. And what you could do is if it came on suddenly at 10 in the morning, you'd probably want to give it every 15, 20 minutes just for a few doses, just to sort of just bring that temperature down. And it's all about dose response, but you have to watch another video to understand dose response. So yeah, that's another example would be croup. So my youngest had croup in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, and it's so intense, it comes on. Aconite's the remedy for that mainly, and that's an intense fever. So what we did is he barely woke up, but started coughing. We gave him 1 dose. 2 minutes later, we gave him another dose, and it's just aconite 30C. 3 minutes later, we gave him another dose, and maybe another one. I can't remember, it was 3 or 4 doses, and then he stopped coughing, and because it was so intense, the coughing, almost back to back, and then that just died back, and then he literally just lay his head like that, and then that was it. He stopped coughing. I mean, he did wake up in the morning with a cough, and he probably coughed sporadically through the night, but it wasn't that intense thing. So that was aconite 30C, and I did it back to back, 2 minutes apart, for 3 or 4 doses, I don't remember, and then that was it. Like, it was improved. I didn't need to give any more, and everybody went back to bed. So that's an example of an intense fever and intense dosing. So hopefully that's a bit of a guide to you. Again, it always depends on the sensitivity of the child, how they respond to homeopathy. There's always other variables. So, and 200, again, it's like higher, so you need less doses. But again, if you're matching the intensity, then you probably need more doses. We just don't need to do these things days on end, It's all about dose response. So I'd really appreciate it if you then now go and watch the dose response video. So I hope they're informative, and don't forget to watch all my other videos as I try and explain how to use homeopathy in the home. Thanks for watching.